Can you believe it? It's day 5 already, and we've covered a lot in just 5 days. I mean, you've learned about the 5 factors, how the 5 factors impact your DNA talks to your cells talk to your hormones. Then we talked about hormone health hierarchy. You've got your food list. Hopefully you're already done your grocery shopping. You've cleaned out your kitchen. We've talked about goals and mindset. And today I want to talk to you about tracking for success, tracking your measurements, tracking your food, tracking your activity, tracking how you feel. All of these things are really important. One of the things that we teach our clients all the time, and they'll hear me say over and over again, we need to measure, monitor, and adjust. But the only way that we can measure, monitor, and adjust is to know where we are. And usually when we talk about the scale, this is it brings up maybe some anxiety or apprehension. It's a wonky conversation often with women because we put so much weight into the scale. We give it so much emotional energy. I mean, an example, you get on the scale and maybe it says that you went down a few pounds and you're like, yes, it's working. I'm going to have a cheeseburger. And then one day you get on the scale and maybe the scale goes up and you're like, oh, it's not working. I can't do this. I'm going to have a cheeseburger. See what I did there? You add this emotional unit to the number on the scale. And that's really what I want to talk to you about. It's important that we track our success. And when it comes to the measurements on the scale, understand we want to look at all the different data. We want to look at the scale. We want to look at the measurements around the waist. We want to look at body fat percentage. We want to look at all the things on how we feel. We want to look at the food that we're taking in. We want to look at the activity. And the measurement on the scale, understand it is the smallest data point that we pay attention to as you start going through your journey. But we have to have some type of starting point. That's why we use the scale. You know, it's just like when you get into your car and let's say we live in South Florida and I want to go north, I want to go to Orlando. Well, I'm going to use my GPS. And my GPS wants to know my starting point so it can give me the fastest point from point A to point B. If I just say Orlando and I want to go to Disney World, well, it could take me anywhere in Orlando. It's not going to take me directly to Disney World. And if I don't have a starting point, it doesn't even know what to do. It could go right into the middle of the country and say, okay, this is where we're starting. So it's important to have the data where we're starting. But going back to the scale on that emotional unit, I want you not to put so much weight into the scale. Why? Because the scale is tricky. Because some women, what they'll do is they get on the scale every day and sometimes several times a day. And that is absolutely the worst thing you can do, not just on an emotional level, because the scale, it's going to fluctuate. Your weight, your hormones, your water or hydration, all of that's going to fluctuate, and it fluctuates from moment to moment and hour to hour. So if you get on the scale in the morning and then you decide to get on the scale at night, yeah, obviously it's going to be higher at night. Why? Because we've taken in sodium, we've taken in food, maybe you didn't have a bowel movement or you had a couple bowel movements, all depending on your activity for that day, your stress levels for that day, where your hormones are at that given moment. So it's going to go up. And you're going to go and look at that scale. This morning I weighed X and now I weigh this, and you get frustrated because understand the weight on the scale, what you see does not determine fact, okay? And because it shifts from moment to moment, there's so many different variables when it comes to the scale, okay? Well, as I just mentioned, did you have something to eat? Did you drink a bunch of water? Did you go to the bathroom? Did you have a bowel movement? Depending on what you eat, not just did you have something to eat, what did you eat? Because that's all going to play a role in what you see on the scale. And people say, well, no, Lydia, I'm telling you, I'll eat a couple slices of pizza and the next day I've gained 5 pounds. Well, yeah, you probably did. Okay. But just because there's 5 pounds 5 pounds of weight on the scale doesn't equate to 5 pounds of fat. And let me tell you why you probably gained 5 pounds. Couple different reasons. Pizza, it is carbohydrates, it's sodium, and it's fat. For every 1 gram of carbohydrate, we retain 3 grams of water. Oh, and then you have all the sodium, and then your digestion, and you might have poor digestion, you might be carb sensitive. So now you're just created a bunch of inflammation. So what you're seeing with the scale is water weight and inflammation. So you can't say, oh my gosh, I gained weight. Yeah, you gained weight, but you didn't gain fat. And then as you start to move through the journey and you are eating in the right proportion of your macronutrients, your protein, your fat, your carbohydrates, maybe you started strength training. Well, guess what? What you're going to see in the beginning, you can see the numbers go down on the scale, and all of a sudden the numbers start not moving. It kind of plateaus, but it doesn't mean that you started or you stopped losing fat. What it means is that you're dropping fat, but now you're bringing up your muscle. So now you're seeing the scale not move at all. See, because the scale, why is it tricky? Why it's deceiving almost? Because when you jump on it, it doesn't say, hey, Jackie, guess what? You gained 5 pounds because you ate pizza. Hey, Jackie, you dropped 3 pounds because you had a bowel movement. Hey, Jackie, you gained 3 pounds of muscle. Hey, Jackie, you just had a binge of 4 weeks of eating Christmas cookies and you gained 3 pounds. It doesn't tell you that. All it shows you is a number. And you really need to start looking at that number as just data and understand that it is the smallest data point when it comes to tracking your success. But you want to start somewhere. And when it comes to tracking your success, measuring, monitoring, and adjusting, we need to look at everything. That's the power of tracking your macros and really paying attention to what you're doing. And you tracking your activity, tracking everything that you're doing. You say, okay, how consistent have I been? Am I getting my protein in? Have I been getting my workouts in? How is my sleep? How is my stress? And start looking at all the different data points, not just the scale. But you do want to pay attention to the scale, or at least start with the scale. Now, what we recommend is only to get on the scale every 4 weeks. Do your measurements every 4 weeks. So you jump on the scale, you measure your body fat percentage, do your waist and whatever other measurements that you want to look at. And that's where you say, okay, what results am I receiving? And am I happy with these results? Are they moving fast as I want them to, or are they moving right on point? And that's where you do a self-assessment. So, okay, this is where I measure, monitor, and adjust, because maybe you haven't been meeting your protein requirements. Maybe you haven't been moving as much as you were 4 weeks prior. I mean, all these different things that you need to look at and looking at the data. So every 4 weeks at the most, once a week. I know some of you are really tied to this scale. I personally don't like the scale. I'll use it in the beginning on certain things for myself. But what I personally do is I look at 1, how am I feeling? 2, what does my physique look like? And when I say how I'm feeling, energy level, sleeping well, am I strong in the gym? How my clothes are fitting. That's another thing that I do is I have specific clothes that were tailored and I know how they're supposed to fit. So every few weeks I'll go and try them on and say, okay, am I happy with the way that they're fitting? Right? So there's so many different ways that you can look at things when it comes to tracking your success, but make sure that you do it. I know this is sometimes people don't want to do measurements. They put it off. They make it a big deal, like it's going to take a bunch of time, and it's not. And so just go and just like the whole saying, just do it. Go and rip the Band-Aid off, get the measurements done, and use it as motivation to get you moving. Don't use it for discouragement or to self-destruct and go down the downward spiral. Another thing I want to recommend, and you want to, just trust me on this, is that you want to take pictures. And you're like, oh, no, I don't want to take pictures. Trust me, so many women where they go through the journey and they've been consistent of taking care of themselves, they say, I wish I would have took pictures. Pictures are about the starting point, and do them every 4 weeks, because what happens is that we don't see our results often because we see ourselves every day. But if you take pictures, week 1, week 4, week 12, and even take pictures of your face, you're going to see the transition and the success and the results that you're achieving. And that's going to help keep you motivated. Okay. Get it? Got it. Good. So you understand the scale a little bit more. Just take the emotion out of it. Just look at everything as just data, use it as your starting point, and go through the process of ticking everything off, tracking your results on everything that you're doing so you can measure, monitor, and adjust. All right, so I want to hear from you in the community. Let me know what your ahas are and what you're excited about. I'll see you on the inside.